bell above the door gave a faint, almost apologetic chime as he stepped inside. His shoulders curled inward under the weight of a coat long past its prime, heavy not just with years of wear, but with something quieter, something more burdensome. His shoes, weathered and worn, whispered across the polished wood floor like ghosts who knew they weren't welcome. A few patrons glanced up, instinctively assessing, before quickly returning to their conversations or their wine glasses. They didn't need to speak it aloud. He didn't belong, not here, where the air smelled like wealth and the chandeliers sparkled like expectation. He paused just inside the entrance, scanning the softly lit space. His eyes, tired but searching, settled on a booth in the far corner. There was a flicker of memory there, something unspoken yet oddly familiar. He took a breath, barely lifting his foot to move toward it, when a voice cut across the room, slicing the silence with a blade of disapproval. "Hey, you lost or something?" A young man in a tailored gray suit stood by the host stand, arms folded tightly across his chest. He didn't smile, didn't offer a menu, just stared. Cold, waiting for the old man to turn and leave. But the man didn't waver. His voice, low and steady, carried no challenge, only quiet dignity. "I'd just like a seat, please." The manager scoffed, eyes trailing over the man's faded jeans, hooded sweatshirt, the silver stubble that traced his jaw, and the fatigue that softened his gaze. Then came a sharp, humorless laugh. "This isn't a public library. Coffee shops are down the block." The dining room hushed. Two servers paused mid-step, unsure. A couple near the window shifted uncomfortably, pretending they hadn't heard. The old man simply nodded, calm and unbothered. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded bill, placing it gently on the counter. "I'm not asking for charity, just a booth, that's all." No apology in his tone, no anger either, just a tired kind of grace. The manager, unmoved, waved lazily toward the bar. "Sit there, someone might get to you, eventually." Without a word, the man turned and walked to the bar. His hands rested on the polished surface, steady, though a slight tremble betrayed the years. From his perch he could see it all, the gleam of the silverware, the hurried servers, the strained politeness on every face. The place felt like a machine, well-oiled, impersonal. Joy had left this building long ago. A young woman in black passed briskly with a tray, her focus locked forward. Behind her, a man struggled to understand the menu, flipping it uncertainly. No one stopped to help. The old man watched it all, the shift in human connection, the fading warmth. This place once lived with laughter. Now it just functioned. Then a bartender approached, tired eyes but not unkind. "Something to drink?" "Just coffee," he replied. She nodded, then leaned in slightly, her voice softer now. "The pasta special's decent, but maybe stick to the classics." Her eyes flicked toward the kitchen, a silent warning in a glance. He gave a subtle nod. Every detail mattered. It always had. He wrapped his hands around the mug when it arrived. Warm, familiar. Same blend, same aroma. The taste was memory. But everything else had changed. Near the kitchen, a server flinched as a loud voice barked, "Colby!" He strutted through the dining room like he owned it, his comments crude, his patience thin. A spoon clattered to the floor behind him. He didn't stop, didn't care. No one did. The staff moved faster, but they weren't present. No smiles reached the eyes, no laughter lingered, only pressure and performance. And then there she was, near the back, a young server helping an older couple. Her voice was calm, her posture grounded. She smiled, and it looked real. Her name tag read Riley. In that moment, fleeting and fragile, the old man felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. His plate arrived beneath a lamp too bright, pasta hastily plated, sauce watery, vegetables still cold. He took a bite and quietly set his fork down. Then, with a gentle raise of his hand, he waited. Once, twice. Finally, a girl approached, nervous, barely older than 16, her voice trembling. "Excuse me," he said, gentle as a grandfather. "I think this needs more time in the kitchen." Before she could respond, Colby reappeared. Loud, red-faced, already angry. "What's the problem now? Trying to scam a free meal?" His voice echoed, colour stilled, heads turned. "You people always want something for nothing. Eat it or leave." A heavy silence followed. The young server froze in place, ashamed by association. The old man didn't raise his voice, he didn't argue. He simply reached into his wallet and placed 2 bills on the counter. Enough to cover the meal and a generous tip. Not angry, not embarrassed, just tired. "Thank you," he said quietly, rising with care. Colby sneered. "Try Applebee's. Might be more your style." A few chuckles rippled from the staff, forced and hollow, survival laughter. The old man didn't look back. He walked slowly toward the exit, spine straight, eyes forward. The bell above the door gave a final chime as he disappeared into the evening. At her station, Riley stood frozen, eyes locked on the door. Something had shifted inside her. Lucinda, behind the bar, clenched a glass too tightly. Her jaw was set. Her gaze dropped. Words remained unspoken, but something had changed. A man they didn't know had entered and left behind something heavy in the air. Truth, maybe, or memory, or just the echo of dignity in a place that had long forgotten what it looked like. Something in Riley broke. She felt it in her chest like a snapped wire, sudden and undeniable. She wiped down her station with robotic motions, but her thoughts refused to stay in the room. The old man's face replayed in her mind. Calm, dignified, steady, not embarrassed by the food, but by the silence, by how no one had stood up. Across the restaurant, Colby barked at a young runner. "Public space doesn't mean public pace. Maybe if you could read a clock, we'd have hot food." The girl nodded with her eyes down, shoulders drawn inward as she trembled her way through the shift. Riley flinched. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes flicked toward the door the old man had exited, then back to Colby, who was now laughing too loudly with someone near the bar. "Enough." She reached under the counter and pulled out her canvas tote. Inside were papers, months of documentation, notes, screenshots, schedules, whispers of things she'd noticed but hadn't known what to do with. She hesitated, her fingers brushing the zipper. A small part of her screamed to bury it again, but she didn't. Riley turned and walked toward the back, her steps quiet, but her spirit no longer afraid. She stepped into the supply room, closing the door behind her with a definitive click. Her breath quickened. Her heart raced. She pulled out her phone, opened the company app, and typed a name. Jackson Halden. A profile popped up, slightly outdated, but unmistakable. Founder, former CEO, now listed as a silent partner under a parent company. Her eyes widened. The man they had just humiliated had built this place from nothing. She stared at the screen, then looked at her tote again. Inside, the folder. A collection of months of quiet watching. She hadn't truly believed she'd ever act on it, but now, it felt like this moment had always been waiting. A voice called her name from outside. She stuffed the folder deep into the bag, zipped it shut, and took a breath. Then another. She wasn't afraid anymore. She untied her apron, folded it with precision, and laid it beside the register. Lucinda looked up from the bar, eyebrows lifting slightly. "You okay?" Riley nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "I need to take my break." Lucinda said nothing more, just nodded and turned away. Riley gripped her tote tightly, pushed through the back door and stepped into the alley. The cold air hit her face like a slap, sharp and necessary. She walked fast, then faster, then she was running. Near the corner, a man reached for the door of a gray sedan. "Sir, wait," she called. He paused, turned. Their eyes met. Recognition dawned across his weathered face. His hand still rested on the car door. "I know who you are," she said. Her voice trembled, but her stance was firm. "Please, don't leave. Not yet." Jackson didn't move. The girl who had just been clearing plates now stood in front of him like her whole world rested inside the canvas tote she clutched. She stepped closer, her breath uneven. "I saw your name. On the card, in the training binder. I remember your face." His face didn't change much, but something behind his eyes shifted. "You don't have to explain," he said quietly. "None of this is your fault." Riley shook her head. "But this is my place, and it's not supposed to be like this. I've been keeping records, months of them." She unzipped her bag and pulled out the folder. The corners were creased, but the contents were sharp. Data, evidence, reality. "I didn't know what to do with it, but maybe you do." Jackson took it, heavier than it looked. He flipped through pages, schedules with missing hours, tip reports that didn't line up, emails rewritten to erase accountability, photos of half-frozen meals and fake customer satisfaction logs. He looked up at her. She didn't back away. Didn't flinch. "You could lose your job for this," he warned. She shrugged. "I probably already have. But I couldn't be quiet anymore. This place used to matter. Now it just hurts." He nodded, slowly. "You stayed. You paid attention. You cared." She looked down. "I thought maybe you still did too." Jackson closed the folder gently and looked at her. "Let's go back inside." They walked together toward the building, silent. Not awkward, but full of weight, shared understanding. Riley walked beside him, not behind. Before they re-entered, Jackson paused. "Before we go in, I want to see it all, the entire folder." They stepped off to a side bench. She opened the folder with care, laying out each page. Screenshots, discrepancies, written testimonies from staff. It wasn't just poor leadership, it was systemic, sustained, hidden. Jackson read in silence, tension gathering in the set of his shoulders. When Riley pressed play on a recording, Colby's voice smug and self-assured. His jaw clenched. "The numbers look great because I cut the fat, stopped coddling these people. They don't like it, they can leave." "That call was last week," Riley said. "He didn't know I was in the storage room." Jackson closed the folder. "Thank you for keeping this. Most people would have just deleted it and walked away." "I almost did," she admitted, "but then today happened." He looked back at the restaurant. "Let's finish what you started." This time, as they entered, Jackson didn't move quietly. His spine was straight, his expression calm, but with purpose. The bell above the door chimed again. Same sound, different meaning. Inside, Colby was laughing at the bar, but when he looked up, the laughter died. "You're kidding," Colby said, eyes narrowing. "Didn't I tell you to leave?" Riley stood beside Jackson, unwavering. "Your break ended 10 minutes ago," Colby barked. "Get back to your section." Jackson set the folder down on the counter. His voice was even, but unshakable. "No, she's staying, and you and I need to talk." The restaurant froze, silverware stilled, heads turned. A reckoning had begun. Colby's chest puffed out as he squared his shoulders, voice rising. Who do you think you are? Jackson didn't flinch, didn't raise his voice. His tone remained composed, but firm. My name is Jackson Halden, founder of Fork and Flame. The words landed like a hammer. A sharp inhale echoed from somewhere near the kitchen. A glass clinked against tile, then rolled out of sight. Colby blinked, trying to regain his footing, and let out a short, humorless laugh. Nice try, the founder doesn't walk around in hoodies. Jackson didn't argue. Instead, he lifted a page from the folder. His name, printed clearly beneath the corporate letterhead of RUS Group, Founder, Senior Advisor. There was no room left for denial. No one in the restaurant moved. Riley stood with her arms folded, watching the mask of confidence slide off Colby's face, one crack at a time. Lucinda stepped from behind the bar, not saying a word but making her stance clear as she positioned herself beside Jackson. Colby's eyes darted around the room, searching for support. But there were no chuckles now, no complicit glances, only silence. Jackson closed the folder slowly. We'll be handling this in the office now. He turned and walked toward the back hallway with Riley following close behind. Lucinda wiped her hands on a towel and came to. Behind them, the restaurant murmured like a hive awakening. Whispers rippled across the tables. Colby hesitated, but then followed, his jaw tight, heels clicking with misplaced defiance. The office doors shut with a soft, final thud. Inside, the air was heavy with reckoning. Jackson placed the folder on the desk. Let's make this clear, he said. You're not here to explain, you're here to answer. Colby folded his arms, forcing a cocky grin. You don't understand. Corporate doesn't care about feelings, they care about numbers. Riley stepped forward. Then explain the fake reports, the missing hours, the stolen tip money. Colby scoffed. You're trusting her? She's just a waitress. Jackson didn't even blink. And you're a liability. Let's keep going. He opened the folder again and laid out pages. Tip records, timestamps, cash logs, all of it inconsistent. Lucinda spoke next, her voice calm but razor sharp. I took those photos. Every time the jar dropped during mid-shift. Colby shifted in his seat. His smile wavered. Then came the schedules. Fragmented hours, no recorded breaks, emergency texts coercing staff into extra undocumented shifts. You've been stealing time, Jackson said. That's wage fraud. Colby leaned back, arms wide, a smirk pulling at his lips. You think corporate cares? My margins are the best in the region. Riley pulled out her phone, pressed play. Colby's voice filled the room. These people don't deserve benefits. They're replaceable. Silence followed. Jackson didn't speak. He simply stared. Colby looked away for the first time. Jackson rested his hands on the desk. His voice never rose, but it cut clean. You've humiliated staff in front of guests, falsified documents, stolen wages. You've stripped this place of everything it once meant. Colby sat stiffly, his confidence unraveling. Jackson didn't stop. You're not being warned. You're being removed effective immediately. Lucinda stepped toward the phone mounted to the wall, securities on standby. Colby stood up abruptly. You can't do this. I saved this place. Jackson stood, too, eye to eye. You didn't save it. You strangled what it stood for. Riley stood at the door, silent and steady. Colby's mouth opened, then shut. He was out of defenses. You can walk out or be escorted. Either way, you're done. Colby clenched his fists, his jaw tight. I'll talk to Russ. They'll back me. They always do. Jackson didn't flinch. Not this time. They'll have the full report by morning. Lucinda picked up the phone and dialed. Her words were short. A name, a request. Colby turned to Riley. You think this makes you special? You're just a waitress. Riley met his stare. Her voice didn't waver. "No. I'm someone who gives a damn." Heavy boots echoed down the hall. 2 security officers appeared. Colby backed up instinctively. "You'll regret this," he muttered. Jackson moved aside. "No. I regret not coming sooner." The guards escorted Colby out. He didn't resist. The door closed behind them, sealing the chapter. Silence settled again, but this time it didn't weigh. It cleansed. Jackson remained still, staring at the empty chair. Then he exhaled slowly. Lucinda sat beside him. "Staff heard everything," she said. "They're waiting." Jackson nodded. "Let's not keep them." He gathered the folder and Riley held the door. They stepped back into the dining room. Every server, every cook, every guest, watching. Jackson stepped forward, voice clear. "My name is Jackson Halden. I built Fork and Flame over 2 decades ago, and I'm sorry for what this place became." He paused. No one moved, but something in the room softened. "Starting today, we begin again." He looked around at the faces of strangers who had served this dream even as it drifted away. "We fix this, together." No cheers, no applause, just stillness, and then relief. A cook nodded slowly. A server stepped forward, arms crossed. "What happens now?" "We rebuild," Jackson said. "No more skipped breaks, no more stolen tips, no more fear." He turned to Riley. She risked her job to bring the truth forward. Now she helps lead the change. Lucinda raised her hand. "We've seen the cracks. We're ready to speak." A few heads nodded. Someone near the window whispered, "About time." Jackson placed the folder on the counter. "Tomorrow, I meet with each of you. No middlemen, no filters, just us." Someone clapped. Then another. It wasn't loud, but it was real. Jackson walked behind the bar. He ran his hand across the scratched wood, grounding himself. Lucinda joined him, pulling out a notepad. "We've got a lot to undo," she said. "Start with the break chart," Jackson replied, then unlock the suggestion box. Riley stepped in. "And fix the shift calendar." People's hours vanished overnight. "Done," Jackson said. "Starting today." He turned to the staff. "If you've got something to say, now's the time." Hands went up. Voices followed. Not complaints, stories. Truth. Jackson listened. Every word, no notes, just memory. One by one they spoke. About late paychecks, about being rushed, about feeling invisible. "We stopped caring," a server said, "because no one cared about us." Lucinda placed a photo on the counter. Opening day. Real smiles. "That's the place we remember." Jackson studied it, touched the corner. "We're not going back in time, but we are going back to purpose." Riley spoke last. "We don't need perfection, just fairness and pride." Outside, the sky had darkened. Inside, the weight had lifted. One truth at a time. Later that night, the restaurant closed early. Chairs stacked, lights dimmed, no one rushed out. Jackson stayed behind, mop in hand. Riley wiped down tables near the window. Lucinda swept the corners. "You don't have to do that," Riley said. Jackson shrugged. "I do. I miss too much already." She smiled, just slightly. There was no name tag on Jackson, no polished badge or executive flair. But tonight, he looked like one of them. One of the crew. Someone had pinned a new schedule in the break room. It was clean, clear, real breaks, fair hours, names written in full. No initials, no anonymous codes. Lucinda had taped a note beneath it. "Day 1, let's get it right." Jackson walked through the kitchen, the rhythm quiet and sure. There was no shouting, no eyes cast down. He paused at the doorway, looked back at the empty dining room, its tables now neatly reset. It still needed work, but it finally felt like home again. Back in the office, Jackson leaned over the table, his words low but steady. His eyes never left Colby. "You turned my restaurant into a place of fear. You stole from the people who built it. You lied to everyone." Colby gave a dry, forced laugh. "You think you can just walk in and lecture me? I made this place profitable." Jackson opened the folder, lifted a sheet. "This is Sarah's schedule. 39 hours, then called in for more. That means she's owed benefits. You knew that. But instead you gave her threats." Colby's mouth opened, then closed. Maya stepped forward. "I've seen the tip jar. Watched the cash disappear right after the lunch rush." Colby spun, voice desperate. "They're lying. She's just bitter she didn't get the promotion." Jackson didn't move. "You're done." This time, Colby had no words left. By 8:00 a.m. the next morning, Lucinda walked in with a tray of muffins. She raised an eyebrow, seeing Jackson already behind the counter. "Didn't expect to find you on coffee duty." "Trying to earn my stripes back," Jackson replied with a soft grin. Riley arrived next, tote bag slung over her shoulder, clipboard in hand. "We've got a lot to cover," she said, smiling. "But I think people are ready." Staff filtered in, quiet but lighter. "Hey, morning, we good?" No one looked over their shoulder. No one flinched. Jackson stood at the bulletin board, pinning up a new quote carved in wood. "Let the fire in your heart light the way for the team." Riley stopped beside him, fingers brushing the frame, as if the words were sacred. The restaurant opened on time. No fanfare, just the hum of real work. Lucinda moved on the line with ease. Riley glided between tables. No fear, just flow. A family of 4 arrived. Jackson greeted them, seated them himself. No title, no name badge. "Welcome in," he said. "Let us know what you need." The youngest child looked up, wide-eyed. "Are you the boss?" Jackson laughed. "Just helping out." Lucinda watched from the bar. Pride softened the disbelief in her eyes. A delivery came. Fresh produce. Riley checked the invoice. Every box accounted for. No substitutions, no expired shortcuts. Jackson passed by. "Looks better than frozen peas." "A lot better," she replied, walking lighter now. Back in the office, Colby tried one last time. His voice cracked as he pointed toward Nia. "She broke rules. That recording, it's illegal." Nia stepped forward, composed. "This is a one-party consent state, Colby. I was part of that workplace. I heard everything." Jackson nodded. "And now everyone else has too." The restaurant hushed again. Servers froze. Customers paused mid-bite. A few still held up phones. Jackson held up the final sheet, a list of names. David, Jennifer, Marcus, fired for asking the right questions. You told them they'd never work again, that no one would believe them. Colby's last defense crumbled. "This is revenge." "No," Jackson said. "This is accountability." He turned to Maya. "Please call security." Then back to Colby. "You're fired, effective immediately." On Jackson's desk, a letter sat unopened, handwritten, no return address. He waited until the lunch rush settled, then unfolded it gently, like something fragile. It to whoever turned the lights back on. "Thank you. I walked away last year, but I never stopped caring. Now I hear there's hope again. Keep going." No name, just former line cook 2017 to 2023. The spy. Jackson leaned back, eyes to the ceiling. The hum of conversation filled the room. He slid the letter into his jacket. No reply needed. The words had landed. Riley stepped into the office doorway. "Suppliers just confirmed. Next week we go fully fresh. No shortcuts." Jackson smiled without lifting his head. The next week starts today. The restaurant felt different, not louder, warmer. Something broken had started to mend. Lucinda delivered drinks to table 6. A toddler clapped when the straw bent just right. Lucinda laughed, really laughed. Riley wiped down a counter that didn't need it, not from nerves, just calm rhythm. Then a man in a suit walked in. No small talk. He moved straight to Jackson. "Corporate sent me," he said. "They want a report." Jackson gestured to a chair. "You'll get more than that. You'll get the truth." The man glanced toward the kitchen, saw the flow, the teamwork, the calm. He pulled out a notepad. "Then let's begin." This time, they didn't talk about numbers, they talked about people. Later, an older man in a navy coat paused at the door. Familiar eyes scanned the room. Riley stepped forward. "Welcome back, Mr. Whitmore." He hesitated, then smiled gently. "I haven't been here since things changed." She led him to the family table. "This one's open." He sat slowly, fingers grazing the polished wood. A stillness washed over his face. Across the room, Jackson watched. Maya brought a fresh pot of coffee. Used to come every Sunday with his wife. Riley nodded. She passed last year. This table meant something to them. Now it meant something again. It wasn't just food anymore. It was restoration. One table, one guest, one truth at a time. Jackson stood near the kitchen, sleeves rolled, clipboard in hand. Staff moved around him, not rushed, not rigid, just present. He checked inventory, asked quiet questions, noted small changes. Colleen, the youngest hostess, approached with a crumpled note. "Someone left this at the register." Jackson unfolded it. "To whoever made the new chicken pot pie, thank you. Reminded me of home." He smiled. Behind him, Maya updated the daily board. Riley coached Tyler, the new line cook, on plating the side dish. No raised voices, no pressure. Just a team, learning how to breathe again. And Jackson walked forward, one shift at a time. The afternoon light spilled through the front windows, painting golden lines across the floor tiles. It was quiet. Not in absence, but in balance. This was what rebuilding looked like. Small moments, shared pride. No one glancing over their shoulder, everyone looking forward. The back office, once cluttered and dim, had been cleared out and painted. New lights buzzed gently. The air carried a hum of conversation. Riley stood beside Jackson at a wide table. Between them, diagrams, schedules, feedback forms, color-coded, organized, alive. "This is working," she murmured, more to herself than to him. Jackson nodded, scanning a break compliance chart. Green dots far outnumbered the red now. "Keep documenting." "Not for control, for trust." Riley tapped her pen against the table. "I want to try something next quarter, a rotating lead role. Anyone on the team can take it. Paid, trained." Jackson looked up, his eyes softened. "That was Carol's idea. Back in '08. We shelved it. Said it was too soft." Riley smiled. "Let's bring it back. But this time, do it right." Outside, a server's laugh rang out, honest and unguarded. It wasn't loud, but it was enough, the kind of sound that rebuilds more than walls. The delivery truck pulled in. One Jackson didn't recognize. Clipboard in hand, he stepped out. The driver handed over a small box first. "Special request from HQ." Inside, a wooden nameplate burned into its surface. "The Halden Room. Staff only. All voices welcome." Jackson turned it over. Taped to the back was a note. "Leadership isn't presence. It's protection. Thanks for remembering." He didn't know who wrote it. Maybe someone still watching. Maybe someone who once had to leave quietly. Back inside, Riley cleared space near the break room. Together they hung the plaque, level steady. Behind them, the team gathered. No speeches, just nods. This wasn't nostalgia. It was something new. Something that made space for voices that once went unheard. That evening, the family table was full. A single mom and her kids shared fries. Smiles passed between bites. At the far end, an elderly couple split a slice of pie. From behind the counter, Riley watched, not managing, just noticing, the kind of attention that signals care. Lucinda handed her a folded note. No signature, just left with a bill. We stopped coming, but tonight felt like coming home. She glanced toward Jackson, who was laughing gently with the dishwasher while clearing plates. The room wasn't perfect, but it was breathing again. Someone adjusted the music. A softer track played beneath the rhythm of conversations. Riley tucked the note in her apron. She didn't announce it. Some things didn't need a spotlight. They just needed to be true. Near closing, Jackson stepped outside. The night was cool, still. He stood by the curb, letting the hush settle. His phone buzzed. An email. Run. Aruz Corp. Subject: Fork and Flame Regional Report reviewed. He opened it slowly. The message was short. Commendations noted. Local changes approved. Model to be considered chain YQ3. No celebration, just confirmation. He slipped the phone into his pocket and exhaled. Not relief, something sturdier. Through the window, Riley waved from inside. Jackson nodded back. The last dish was rinsed, chairs stacked, the sign flipped to closed. He walked back in, slower this time, the kind of slow that comes with peace, not exhaustion, just presence. Only one light remained, above the family table. Riley stood near it, polishing a glass that was already clean. She didn't turn, but she spoke. Place feels different now, but it still remembers. Jackson traced the grain of the table with his hand. Faint scratches, the marks of years. That's the point, he said. We're not erasing anything, we're carrying it. Riley pulled a folded piece of paper from her apron. Found this in the back office, thought it belonged here. It was a hand-drawn sketch, the original design for the family table. Dated, faded, still sacred. Jackson took it gently, then slipped it under the glass top of the table. No frame, no plaque, just memory returned. The golden hour light filtered in through the windows. Riley wiped down the counter, not from habit, but rhythm. At the table, the elderly couple shared their dessert. A young mother helped her son unwrap a straw. Laughter drifted from the corner booth. Low, real. Jackson leaned against the archway to the kitchen. No clipboard, just watching. Lucinda passed by and gave him a nod. It said more than words could. At the family table, the young boy pointed at the sign. "Let the fire in your heart light the way for the team," he read, then asked, "What does it mean?" His mother looked at the sign, then around the room. "It means someone cared enough," she said, "to fix what was broken." Jackson heard her. He didn't respond aloud. His hand rested on the counter. For a moment, everything stilled. The restaurant wasn't perfect, but it was healing, one moment, one table, one shift at a time. He stepped into the alley behind the kitchen. The metal door clicked shut. The air was crisp. He sipped from a paper cup, coffee brewed not for business, but because the team liked it strong. His phone buzzed again. Another email. Subject: Regional review confirmed. Model approved for expansion. He smiled slightly, the kind of smile you make when something inside you settles. Inside, muffled laughter reached him, familiar voices, unforced. He turned back, re-entered the warmth. Maya coached a trainee through balancing plate. Lucinda adjusted a stack of menus, centered just so. Riley tightened a bolt on the leg of the family table. Colleen handed a customer their bill. "Thanks for being here," she said, and she meant it. Jackson paused by the kitchen wall. There hung the old staff photo, faded smiles, worn edges. Beside it, a new one, new faces lit from within. He stepped back. Didn't compare, just understood. Fork and Flame wasn't going back. It was becoming what it should have been all along. The afternoon shift drifted into quiet. Tables cleaned, lights dimmed. Outside, long shadows stretched. Inside, no one rushed. Riley wiped the family table gently. Her hand slowed as she reached the edge where the wood met a new plaque. Jackson joined her, towel slung over his shoulder. He didn't speak, just stood beside her, the way teammates do when the work is real. Above them, 2 photos hung. One old, one new. Neither replaced the other. Riley glanced at them, then at the room. "Feels like something's been made whole," she said. Jackson nodded. "Not fixed, just held together again." The door opened quietly. A mother and her son entered, the same boy from earlier. He paused under the plaque. "Mom," he asked, pointing again. "What does it mean?" She smiled, soft, not hurried. "It means someone cared enough to fix what was broken." Riley watched them sit. No applause, no performance. Just one more meal. One more safe table. And this time, nothing needed to be said.